Mark caught the look that Greg shot at Kurt. The contractor didn't say anything in response, but Mark was sure there would be a spirited conversation between the two in the near future. Rob jumped in and broke up what was becoming an uncomfortable moment. Look, this isn't just a Silver Hills problem. This is a problem for all of us. We need a county-wide solution. If there are any super gangs out there, they will sweep through the countryside like a swarm of locusts. We need to be able to stop them in their tracks. It was hard enough to stop those 60 Los Muertos gang members with the automatic weapons. We lost 4 good men in that fight and had 2 others wounded. How in the hell can we stop 300 to 500? Everyone began talking at once. The meeting had spiraled out of control and they were accomplishing nothing. Mark had to get everyone back on the same page. Listen, everyone, the chatter continued. He raised his voice a little. Can I have your attention, please? No one paid any attention. Everyone, this isn't accomplishing anything. He was almost shouting now. It didn't do any good. Susan was arguing with Jim. Billy and Gunny were having their own animated conversation. Rob, Greg, and Kurt were talking back and forth, while Ted and Chaparro whispered back and forth. Mike was the only one not actively involved in a conversation. He just sat wide-eyed and looked like he was trying to absorb everything. Mark realized that if the situation was not so serious, this would almost be comical. Well, he thought, time to go to Plan B. It would cost him $1, but if it worked, it would be worth it. Everybody shut the fuck up! He shouted at the top of his lungs. 10 heads snapped around to face him. 20 eyes looked at him with surprise, shock, anger, or some combination thereof. Most importantly, it was quiet. Sometimes you just gotta use French. Sorry about that, Mark said with a slight smile. Back to business. I think we all agree that we need to treat this as a threat of some kind, right? 10 heads nodded. We also agree that super gangs, if or when they exist, are not just a threat against Silver Hills, but one that the whole county will have to deal with, if not now, in the future, for sure. Again, the heads nodded. And that we're all in this together. More nods. So, how do we protect all of Wilson County? That's what we were talking about, Rob said. We have the response teams from before. What if we just try to expand on that strategy? We put a radio and a school bus or 2 in every neighborhood or area where there's enough firepower to call on. If an attack occurs, the attackees call for help and hold the attackers off or fall back until the cavalry arrives. Mark glanced at Billy and thought about how the cavalry had saved him last night. It seemed like a good plan. Everyone else seemed to think so too. I can get that set up and organized in the morning at the Monday training class, Kurt volunteered. I hope you'll excuse us if we don't show up, Mark said. I think we need to start on the things that Gunny suggested. I think we should cancel the classes and come and help y'all, Greg said. Please forgive me for being so blunt, but our best hope for stopping a super gang is if they do attack Silver Hills. We should help you get your stuff done. Then you can help us. That's very kind, Greg. We would be happy to have the help and to help whoever helps us, Mark smiled. This was coming together. One other thing, Greg said. I have about 800 feet of chain link fence that we put around a building site when we're constructing a house. It's 8 feet tall and has razor wire on the top. We use it to keep tools and materials from walking off after hours. I don't think it will go all the way across the back of your subdivision, but you could put it across part of the back, and that would keep people from crossing at least there. That would be a great help, Gunny said. That will cover about half of the back fence. We'll put it in the middle and force them to cross closer to the corners. Thanks, Greg. You're welcome. I'll bring it tomorrow and help you set it up. We'll probably need 6 or 8 guys. Chaparro, can you put together a crew to set the fence up? Mark asked. No problem. Susan, can you be responsible for the foxholes? She nodded. I'll help you, and once they're done, we'll get started on the ditches. And Ted, can you start on clearing behind the old fence? When Chaparro gets the new fence set up, then he can help you. We can get started first thing in the morning. Sounds like a plan, Ted agreed, and Chaparro gave him a nod. Gunny, if you would get with Billy on the scouting, I don't see any reason not to take him up on his offer. Also, I agree that we need the additional guards, at least for a while. I know this is going to make manpower around here hard to come by, but with some outside help, maybe we can get all of this done in a week. Does anybody disagree or see a problem? Everyone in the meeting shook his or her head. Good. Anything else we need to talk about? Mark asked. Yeah, Mark, Kurt said. I was wondering if I could borrow 6 of the Harleys that you brought back from Waco. I have 6 deputies that can ride motorcycles, but none for them to ride. That would let me put more men out on patrol. The bigger one of these super gangs is, the harder it will be for them to stay out of sight. With more men out, maybe we'll see them before they can attack anyone. No problem. Kurt, just come and get them. Or you can borrow my truck and Chaparro's trailer and take them today if you want. Is that okay with you, Chaparro? Fine by me. I'm sorry, Kurt said. I know this isn't really the time, but what does Chaparro mean? Mark had wondered the same thing before, but had never asked. It roughly translates to tiny, the huge man said. Tiny. How could anyone call you tiny? Ted asked. You've never seen my brothers, Chaparro grinned. They are muchos más grande than me. Everyone laughed. It served to break the tension. Well, Tiny, Kurt said as he was still laughing, I think I'll take you up on your kind offer for the use of your trailer. Thank you. Anything else? Mark asked as a formality. Just one more thing, Mark, Rob said. Gunny, you said you were going to look at the hill that your scout saw the observer from. Yeah. 2 things. First, can I come with you? Sure. Be glad to have you along. Second, you are assuming that he was part of the group that shot at Mark and the others last night? Rob asked as Gunny nodded his head. Chances are that they were all together, but you have to consider that it may have been 2 different groups. I know your background is in the military where you only battle one enemy at a time, but this is a different ballgame. You're right, Gunny agreed. I was making an assumption, and you know what that does, the old Marine asked rhetorically. Jim, why don't you and the boys go recon that hill and call me when you're sure it's clean? Then Rob and I will come and look at it with you. Don't let your guys trample where Mark saw the observer. You got it, Gunny. Are we done? I have a job to do, Jim grinned. We're done, Mark said. Everyone got up and walked out. Mike and Mark headed back toward the Turner house. What's the deal with the Harleys from Waco? Mike asked.